From Notable Capital, this is Founder Real Talk, where we get real about the challenges that founders and startup executives face and how they've grown from tough experiences. Founder Real Talk is part of the Notable Capital family of podcasts, and you can access all our podcasts at notablecap.com. I'm your host, Glenn Solomon. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hey everybody, I'm Glenn Solomon, managing partner here at Notable Capital. I'm here with my colleague, Dan Cahana. Dan, how you doing?
Good. Great to be here.
Well, we're really excited because today we have the co-founders of FAL, one of our most recent investments that we're super excited about, Berkay Gore and Gorkam Yurtseven. Welcome to Founder Real Talk. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Awesome. So thought we'd start by asking you a little bit about the origin story of FAL and also your combination. You're working together. How did you guys meet? How did you decide to start FAL? What was your backgrounds? I think it's really an interesting story, so it'd be great for people to hear about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll get started. So it was around May when we were this was like May 2022, I think. Mm-hmm. Right around like the COVID lockdown. Görkem and I have been friends for a long time. We're both Turkish, so we met through the Turkish community in San Francisco, and so we had our bubble. So we had like a group of friends during COVID. Yeah, we just spent a lot of time, and when you do that, you before that we weren't really talking about work too much. We were just like friends socially, but like during COVID, we actually we were just working from home. So I was working at Coinbase. Görkem was at Amazon, and I was actually one of the first hires at Coinbase for the machine learning team. And so like I just spent so much time just talking to Görkem about machine learning infrastructure, how like it's just really bad, and like how it needs to be improved, and there's so much opportunity there. And a few months after that, we actually started the company, initially focusing on just general machine learning infrastructure and compute. And then lots happened, which we can get into the details of. But here we are. Yeah, we started with like general infrastructure, and we found ourselves in a very interesting space with these generative media models.
Awesome.
Yeah,
anything you want to add?
Almost, we started pretty general in machine learning infrastructure. And maybe we were in the first year, the whole world around us changed. These large models, both LLMs and image and audio models, it completely changed how engineering teams, data science teams operated. So we had to adapt our world perspective around it. And that also gave direction to the company we eventually got to build.
Okay,
yeah.
So you started, FAL is a bit of a COVID baby.
Yes.
It started in a COVID bubble. So it sounds like the first decision was, hey, let's work together, right? And it sounds like the vision up front was let's work on this infrastructure space.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like the idea of what FAL is today wasn't immediately apparent to you when you guys got started. So maybe talk to us a little bit about like how that spark sprung and you decided actually let's go after multimedia, and maybe talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing.
To me, it was like the large models basically changed everything. Before, it was pretty rare to run inference on GPUs because the models, every company had their own. Maybe at like the highest level, Google and Facebook, maybe some recommendation systems were running on GPUs, but really these larger models like LLMs, and at the time it was most popular Stable Diffusion.
Yep.
That kind of changed the game because no one else at that time had any experience running these large models in production. And like very quickly, these models became production ready. Like when we first started, like our first customer, they were trying to run Stable Diffusion on our servers. And every day we would come in and we would be like, okay, when is this gonna stop? Like, when is this hype gonna be over? And every day it kept doubling for like 10 days in a row, like our first customer. And then we realized, okay, this is very real. This is not a toy. This is not a research project. There are real products being built on this technology. And this was still the early days, and it was pretty significant scale. And we decided, okay, we need to completely shift our focus towards this area and build a product experience around this. And then there were lots of other twists and turns in the journey, but that was like the moment where we decided to go after.
Is there like a moment you remember where you said, you know what, like this LLM thing is great, but what's happening in the audio, video, image world like could be more interesting, or was that just a subtle shift?
Yeah, I think there was a time when I think around when Llama 2 came out, we saw a lot of excitement around Llama 2, like around language models in general. I think they were just getting a lot of hype.
Yep.
But yeah, like our initial reaction was like we already had a lot to do with image models, and Llama 2 required a different kind of expertise. So our initial reaction was like it's a technical, there's technical difference. And if you focus on Llama 2, we're not going to be able to deliver on what we're focused on, which is like image models. At the time, this was like SDXL.
Yep.
So initially it was like a technological thing and like a focus thing. But then we slowly realized that these markets are actually very different, and the types of use cases are very different. So it also made sense from a product and customer perspective.
Okay, so is it fair to say like the customers dragged you to image, and then the decision to focus on image was almost like because you were getting that customer pull, and so when Llama 2 comes out, you realize, well, that's also amazing, but we better stay focused.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay,
and
cool.
just to zoom out, like what do we do?
Yes, let's zoom out.
Yeah. So yeah, FAL is a generative media platform for developers. So what's generative media? It's these models starting with Stable Diffusion 1.5, DALL-E. It's these models that can generate images from text prompts. But now they can also generate videos, and you can now edit images and edit videos and make audio and make songs. And you can combine these things to just build creative applications, marketing, content, product photography, etc. So we serve these models through APIs to developers to build these products, essentially.
Super helpful. Gorkam, you mentioned from the beginning when you started to focus on these models, things just kind of doubled and doubled and doubled. And now you've reached 100 million inference requests daily, which is incredible. And I think looking back, you guys have really evolved as this market has started from basically from zero and become a very interesting space. I'm curious, how do you think about kind of setting product roadmap and setting strategy while the market is so young and evolving so quickly?
I think there are trends that are happening in slow motion in this market, and then things that are happening super fast day by day. Like each day we have a certain percentage of our team working on implementing new models and adding them to the platform. And there is very little planning we can do about that. Like we wake up and then someone somewhere around the world really decides to release a very good model that day, and we have to go all hands on deck to make that model live and available in the platform. But then more recently, we've been building relationships with researchers and companies who are actually doing these model trainings. So we get earlier access, so we can prepare more in advance. So we have a better idea what models are coming in the next months now than we used to have like a couple of years ago. So now it's easier to plan around it, but still. And the mega trend we are seeing right now is around video generation. Almost everyone is talking and working on video. People almost left image generation space, even though it's not perfect yet, but all the focus and effort is on video. I think the prize is so much bigger. That's why everyone's focused on that. That's definitely our focus as well.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. The other interesting thing I think we see in FAL is that you guys have a really wide variety of use cases and a really wide variety of people who touch the end models. But in between, there are developers who sort of enable those experiences. Yeah. And we spend all of our time thinking about infrastructure businesses, and we see developers kingmake in many different categories. I'm curious, what are the major problems you saw with sort of the developer experience for these image and video models? And what are kind of the major pain points that you try to position FAL to solve for developers?
I think one subtle thing we realized early on, similar to deciding between LLMs or image, like just leaving LLMs behind. There was another point where we decided, okay, are we selling GPUs or are we selling an inference product? I think that difference is subtle but really important, and this wasn't clear to everyone at that time. Turns out people want an optimized inference product. Like the inference optimization is really, really important rather than the infrastructure around serverless GPUs or what, like, in general, GPUs on demand. We decided to focus on the inference product and actually build around that rather than just providing on-demand GPUs to people. Some companies pick the other side, and I think in LLMs it's even more clear. People who are building actual inference products are the ones being used by people, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I think what we see across the best developer-focused companies is that they enable a developer experience so that developers can then enable a great user experience. And I think that's what we see with Fal, in that you create this incredible inference experience, and that actually unlocks new user experience because it's faster, because it's cheaper, because it's better optimized.
Yeah. And I think, like, in terms of the kingmaking, it's definitely true. Like, for this space, it is a very niche space in a way, and developers and sort of like, however you want to call them, maybe like the long tail of users really decide what is the thing that like is actually useful. So they build like workflows and they hack with these models, and there's this like very interesting community that is like using these models and building things with it. And I think we also managed to like create this really, with the focus, I think, which is very important. I think they feel home with Fal, and like they feel very aligned like with the work we're doing. So, and then our view is that once you capture the developers, you kind of capture the whole stack, like all the way to the companies they're working at, and then enterprises. So I think our focus and the nicheness of the space really helped too.
Let's pull apart that last comment, Berkay. Like, when we think about who you're serving, right? You've got startups, lots of startups that are using you, that are creating, really unique and different experiences now, primarily video, a lot of video oriented services. You've also got larger companies though that are starting to use you in size, committing to you, the Canvas of the world, the Amazons of the world. What's it like, first of all, like just to like tell us a little bit about like what the needs are of those different users, because although the inference optimization is the same, like they may have different kinds of needs. And then would love to talk a little bit more about how that ecosystem is evolving, because you've got the model providers that are also part of this equation, and very curious like how you see Fal fitting into all of that. But let's start with the customers.
Right. Yeah. So one thing, so like we've come maybe like until the 6 to 8 months ago, we've come all this way with like smaller startups and developers actually, and we get amazing growth. And like one of our bets was actually,
by the way, when we first met you, I'm pretty sure you were like about zero in terms of ARR.
Yeah. Yes.
And that wasn't that long.
Little.
It wasn't that long ago.
That long ago.
So the growth has been rocket ship-esque.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's really been following this like, classic early adopters and then like enterprises story. And these like developers and indie devs and like earlier stage startups, they really brought a lot of our initial growth. And then our bet was that like we thought that like model quality was like a pretty big limiting factor for enterprise adoption. And as we saw like better models get released, we saw more and more enterprise adoption. And I think also like on top of that, I think enterprises who are really reliant on these technologies, especially, they also felt a little bit threatened, right? Like the space is moving so fast. There's now like 10 different competitors to the thing that they're doing, right? Using AI. So they also like started just getting more serious about it. So those were the two things that happened that like really got the enterprises to also start considering these technologies. And I think in terms of the things that they care about, it actually caught us a little bit off guard. For enterprises, they actually care about like enterprisey things,
Yep.
which like we weren't really ready to tackle. But we took some time to build those things. But those things are I think things around privacy, things around like how the input output data is being used, right? Some more mundane things like SSO. And a bunch of other things, right? So and like longer MSAs, right? So those type of things, like it required a different kind of muscle, but we got there pretty fast. We learned very fast, and we actually started doing these like more serious enterprise deals. And yeah, like early stage companies, they're a different kind of beast. I think for them, speed is very important in terms of like how quickly the space is moving. So speed in the sense of like, what are the new models, right? What are the new models that we're putting out? How quickly are they available? And like, can they, just rely on us to know about what's the latest and greatest?
Yeah. So one of the things that we found really interesting as we were learning more about the business is it does, like, when you talk to the average startup or developer who's been working on your platform, they're always amazed, by the optimization you're able to drive, but also how fast you've moved. So, like moments after the announcement of the release of the next great, image model or now video model, like you guys have it up and you guys have it optimized, and it feels like you're almost, predicting the future in some ways. Like that's what we kept hearing. How are you doing that? Like that doesn't sound easy at all.
Yeah, we have a team of ML engineers who are like really, really passionate about like the space, and they are by far like the best people on the internet to figure out what's going on in any corner of the world, and they just jump into it as soon as like something's released. And at this point, we streamline the process of what does it mean to release a model on file. Like that process is incredibly streamlined. So it takes us very little time to actually like use our optimization libraries on top of the model and then release it. Yeah. The workflow is very, very clear at this point.
Yeah. Team is like so important. Like I think it takes a certain kind of person that is so passionate about this to be so excited that they're so on top of it, right? Because it's really moving at light speed. And so yeah, we have an amazing team of people.
And you guys, the model providers are the other, part of this equation, right?
Yes.
You have customers of all varieties, as we discussed, but tell us a little bit about the relationship you've got emerging with the open source model provider, to the extent their relationships emerging with commercial providers. Like, how do you see, where are you today? And how do you see that evolving over time, and making sure that FAL has a good place?
Yeah,
in the
what
world?
we are trying to build actually is a strong vertical like diffusion inference play, where we have customers like enterprises using these models, and then we have a marketplace of these models that are all kinds of models that are listed there. Yeah. But then all these marketplace models also hosted by us and optimized by inference engine. So from the researcher relationship side to the customer, we want to play a part in that journey. And as we add more models to this marketplace, it becomes an attractive place for both our users and the researchers to be a part of it. So we see this marketplace dynamics actually working very well in the past couple of months, and we've been adding more and more models to it because of it.
And are model providers previewing things with you as a result? Are they
exactly
asking
we get
you
early access, so we can optimize certain things in day zero. We can release it with them. It also became a good marketing channel for them, because the day the model is released, for it to be available on FAL is a great distribution advantage for them. So we are also working with them to make sure that happens. And on the user side too, we have security arrangements, data protection agreements, all these already set up. So when a new model comes out, there is no paperwork required from the enterprise customer to start using that model in
Got
day
it.
zero.
Got it.
So it's a win-win for the user side and the researcher side.
Super interesting. I think that we're seeing that flywheel bring in more and more interesting customers. I'm curious from your end, what have been your favorite FAL use cases? And particularly love to understand like which use cases do you feel like the optimized infrastructure have allowed that weren't possible before?
I think by far in the industry, the most interesting thing happening is hyper-personalized ads. So this could be image or video, but there's a ton of startups working on this, ad agencies working on this, bigger technology companies even working on this, because marketing budgets are really big, and ads is a really big deal for these companies. So if we can generate ads that are hyper personalized in real time, this is a huge opportunity. And there is already a couple billion-dollar companies just working on this. We are working with them to optimize their inference workflows for them, but also some end users, like more established enterprises, using our APIs to bake these products into whatever they offer to their users.
When you say hyper personalized, how personalized are we talking about?
It's basically like a person you created or you yourself talking about a product or a course you are selling or you're teaching something, and it's completely generated. So as personalized as it gets.
It's
amazing.
Amazing.
You guys have also talked about how 2025 is really going to be the year of video models. Given your relationships with both enterprises and model providers, what do you expect to see coming out of some of these major labs on the video side this year?
Yeah, so even back in the days, like when we first saw STXL, that was like a year and a half ago. I think we all saw like where the space was going. That's why like we got very excited. That's why we wanted to double down. I think a lot of like investment community felt excited. A lot of the researchers got excited. I think video is really may not even be the end state. Like I think people are very excited about it because it's obviously like a harder problem, but it's not the end game. I think so. But for video at least, we're seeing I think the quality just going up. I don't know if you've seen VO2 by Google. It's a pretty amazing model in terms of like its ability to understand physics, and I think this like physics and world models aspect is a very important thing. People are very excited about, especially in like even the robotics community. Like we don't work with anyone in robotics just yet, but like people are actually extrapolating video to world models which can understand like physics, and so you can run full simulations, etc. So there's a long way to go, but in general, I think our understanding, like through these models, our understanding of the world like is just getting better, like in terms of just being able to build better AI in general is just very exciting. But more focused in our domain, we're just gonna see basically like everyone who's currently generated an image, presumably they're gonna also generate video. So like we think our scale is gonna just like go super high essentially, and people are building more engaging things, and video in general is extremely engaging. I mean, just like look at the switch from for Instagram and TikTok, and I think that trend is gonna just follow in this space too.
Yeah, if we can have an open source model as good as VO2 this year, I think that would be an incredible accomplishment. Yeah. And I'm sure the community will find ways to create other tools around it that's gonna actually enhance the model so much that would be a really good thing if we can achieve this year.
Yeah, that's top of our wish list.
Yeah, and
super exciting.
It's probably gonna happen. It's not even that.
Super exciting. So talk to us a little bit about, the future as you look into your crystal ball. You guys have you're growing extremely fast. That creates challenges, right? I mean, you've got to keep serving your customers. You've got to keep up with the latest and greatest models. You've got to hire out a team. You've got bigger and bigger customers who are more and more demanding. So what's that like? And how do you guys manage with all this pace of change?
It's been a crash course for both Burka and I. It's, what is that saying? We change the engine of the plane while the plane is flying.
Hopefully not a crash course then. Let's not crash.
We had to change the engine of the plane while it's flying. We had to, adapt to enterprise needs very, very fast. And now we have a very good support team working with our enterprise customers. We are building a great sales team to go see what's out there and capture more of the market. And customer success is something we didn't think about much, but now it's almost top of mind. We gotta work with our existing customers, make sure they're satisfied, and then teach them almost new use cases on how they can utilize these models. So we are seeing a lot of growth coming from existing customers because we are able to do that pretty well. I think those are the ways that we had to change how we work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is typical for any kind of developer led or bottoms up kind of company, and we were very since the starting date we were very excited to do something like that, right? Something that is not. I think we were actually avoiding building an enterprise software product because I think we both appreciate just reaching a really wide audience of developers, and we've come a really long way. But then when we started getting these really large customers, we really had to change up a lot of things. And it's been a great learning experience. And a lot of our advisors, investors are they've seen this play out many times, so we've been getting a lot of help, and it's been very successful. I think being open to the change is very, very important, and I think we've been managing it pretty successfully.
You guys are doing an amazing job so far.
Thank you.
If you look into the crystal ball, and Dan and I ask you to come back in a couple of years, and things are going incredibly well, what kind of conversation are we having then? What do you want FAL to become, and when will you know you're kind of where you want to be?
Yeah. So when people talk about generative video and generative media in general, immediately they go to movies, Hollywood. Hollywood's gonna change completely. I think we are still pretty far from that. I think there's a lot more to happen before we actually change how a movie is being made. Maybe small edits here and there is realistic, but I think movies need to be perfect, and I think we are still a little bit far from perfect. That being said, I don't think Hollywood is even big enough for us to get excited. Sure, if all movies are generated, that would be cool, but I think there is a lot more content on the internet that are much more suitable for this technology before we get to generate movies from the beginning. So we are excited about the longer tail of I would say 85% of the content that's on the internet that's shorter form, that is less production quality, that can be completely transformed by this technology. So we would think that segment is gonna change until people start making movies or things like that.
Yeah, and I think just judging by the momentum and the energy that that people are building, using FAL, and the products they're putting out there, these new forms of let's say entertainment, I think that we've never seen before, short form AI generated videos, etc. There's things that we've never even thought were possible that people are building, and I think there's just so much variety, and there's just it's just so engaging that I think in a few years it's not too far-fetched to say we need some core infrastructure to support all of this, and we'd like Val to be that, essentially. Like we think this is gonna be bulk of the internet, generated like images, videos, audio, and we'll hopefully play a big part in it, supporting all these great companies.
Well, thanks for sharing what has been an incredibly exciting story. I know I speak for Dan as well, and our entire team here at Notable. We're so excited to have joined you on your journey. We can't wait to see what happens next. We'll look forward to that next podcast episode where we can talk about taking over Hollywood and the other 85% of entertainment and the commercial use cases and everything else that comes with it, the robotics use cases. There's just going to be so much in front of you that is exciting. And we're incredibly proud to be associated with you and also really excited for the ride. So thanks for joining us today. And here's to a really, really exciting future.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Founder Real Talk. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us on your podcast app to help others find this podcast. If you have any questions you'd like to ask our guests or founders you'd like to hear on this podcast, feel free to email us at frt@notablecap.com. Notable Capital is a global venture capital firm based in the US, focused on early to growth stage companies in business and consumer applications and cloud infrastructure, which includes AI, cybersecurity, data, DevOps, and more. The firm has offices in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and New York. We invest primarily in the US, Israel, Europe, and Latin America. Notable Capital's enterprise portfolio includes companies such as BitSight, Block, Dscope, Drata, HashiCorp, Monte Carlo, Neon, Nozomi Networks, Orca Security, Slack, Synac, Vercel, Zendesk, and many more. Learn more at notablecap.com or follow us on X and LinkedIn at Notable Capital.
This episode was produced by Sashi Productions, music produced by Gus Culpo. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individuals only and do not reflect the views of their respective employers or affiliates. The information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be considered or deemed to be as investment advice in any way. Thanks again for tuning in.